Welcome to the Wellness in Asheville podcast, where we shine a light on the people, practices, and places that make this city one of the most inspiring wellness communities in the country. I'm your host, Travis Richardson, founder of Be Well Asheville, your local news source for health, wellness, and community events. Okay, so today's guest is Megan Hearne, a neurofeedback provider and health coach with over 6 years of experience helping people rewire their brain for calm, clarity, and better focus. Megan holds a master's degree in advanced training from the Institute for Applied Neuroscience, New Mind Academy, and the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. She bridges brainwave training and lifestyle coaching into an empowering, healing experience, and now welcomes clients into her new space over at the Heartwood Collective in downtown Asheville. And my own journey with biofeedback started years ago with Deepak Chopra. Some of you may have heard of him. Had an early biofeedback game, which used sensors to let your breath and heart signals control meditation-like challenges. Later, I explored HeartMath, which measures heart rate variability to train calm and focus. And these days, I am aspiring to try out and use the MUSE headband, which gives real-time feedback on your brain waves during meditation. So having Megan here to dive deeper into how neurofeedback works and how it can transform people's lives feels especially exciting. So without further ado, let's welcome Megan to the show. Hey, it's Megan. Welcome to the Wellness in Asheville show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Oh man, I'm really excited to talk to you about what you do. It's really been impressive to when I was looking over your work and the way that you combine the integrative nutrition and the neurofeedback. It's just really been very interesting and fascinating to look and see how somebody combines those together. Well, let's start though with your story. Like, what originally drew you to this path that you're on now of brain training, really, in this holistic health coaching model that you have?
Yeah. Well, I have always been interested in science and I've always been interested in trying to do, what I think of as like the most important thing to help people, to help the world. And for a long time I thought that, went into environmental science actually and did that for my first career, biology stuff. And then about 7 years ago, I decided to switch gears because I was realizing that I was trying to give people more information to make better decisions with environmental stuff, biodiversity and water quality, and you know, um, they'll trying to convince the legislature to pay more money to save the planet. And I was like, why aren't people making better decisions? And then I was thinking, well, they're anxious, they're tired, they can't focus. All these things that are limitations on a very individual level. And so I got interested in, well, how can I apply my science background in a different way to kind of get more fundamentally at the root of better decision making and better action to uplift everyone in their daily life and their professional life, families. And so I started hearing stories about how great neurofeedback was. And so got trained in that. And it's just been really compelling to me to help people improve their nervous system regulation at such a, like I said, the fundamental level. And I love working with people one on one. And then, yeah, just more recently have been adding in this more nutrition focus, broadly defined as like all the things in your life that nourish us. So I'm just, going with the flow, evolving as I grow and learn through life. And I've really benefited personally from neurofeedback and more knowledge of nervous system regulation. Kids, my family has all benefited too. Yeah.
I really have had a number of experiences, I guess, thinking back through my life where I've been dysregulated. um, actually funny to think about this, but the last couple weeks, okay, so I've hurt myself a couple times, like pretty badly. I know it doesn't seem like this is like even relevant at all, but it is. Stay with me here. I hurt my leg. I was working outside on the on the fence and I was cranking this wood piece and it had a screw on it and the piece came out and it just drove right into my leg. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm rushing myself to urgent care, 8 stitches later. Okay. So, and then just recently again, I was taking the garbage can down to the side of the road and I was sort of just like, I just, was hurrying to try and do the next thing after this. So I'm like, really just like, okay, I just got to get this done so I can do the next thing. And I kick the can at the bottom and I push and I literally fall and I hit my chin and it cranked my neck so badly. And I have cervical stenosis already. And it sent these shock waves on my arm and it really shocked my nervous system like significantly. And I started thinking, what is going on with me? Why am I hurting myself? And the only thing I could think of is I feel dysregulated. Is the only way I can describe it is my nervous system is not calm. It is not centered. It is rushing and barging through life. It is missing things, not being quiet, it's everything that I know that I should be doing, I'm not doing. So I guess, what do you do with somebody like me?
Well, yeah, thanks for being vulnerable. And I'm sorry for all the pain and suffering of those wake up calls to be like, hey, pay attention. You need to be more present here.
Totally.
But I think, I would say come get some neurofeedback.
So if somebody's never heard of neurofeedback, what actually is it? And what does a person, can they expect in a session? Like what happens there?
Yeah. So basically what happens is it's based on your EEG, your electroencephalogram, which is a measure of your brain's electricity generation. So we put sensors on your scalp and earlobes to pick up that signal and then run it through an amplifier to my software, which compares your electrical frequency pattern to our goals, our hurdles and limbo bars for what your frequencies are at the spot that we're measuring on your head. And so, for example, we might say, oh, we're going for, we want to encourage more beta wave frequency, which just means like that's between 12 and 20 hertz frequency. And we want to minimize your theta waves, which is between 4 and 7. But you don't have to remember that. But I'm just saying, like, as I program stuff into the software, that's the hurdles and the limbo bars. As you do the brain training, which involves sitting in a recliner with these wires on your head, watching your favorite show on Netflix or something, documentary or whatever, the computer gives you feedback that's pretty instantaneous based on your electricity patterns. And it's saying like, okay, when you meet the goals, the screen's going to get brighter. And when you're not meeting those goals, it gets a little darker. So the effect is like a slight flickering of the screen. And your brain is subconsciously learning from that feedback. So there's no electricity coming back to you through the computer for my kind of neurofeedback. There are other kinds that give you a little of electricity back. But, and so over time and using the principle of operant conditioning, which in case you forget from intro psych or whatever, it's like,
maybe.
if you want your dog to sit and she does, you give her a treat. And then next time she's quicker to sit, So it's basically we're giving your brain treats in the form of a brighter screen. And it's very, tightly calibrated to what your brain is already doing. So you don't have to make a conscious effort. It's all subconscious. You just have to show up and keep your eyes on the screen. Or we can also do it with audio feedback. But I tend to do more visual. So that's how the mechanism of neurofeedback works and what the effect is when your brain electricity patterns are more optimized. And we've trained them to be more normal based on a database of lots of other people, then you experience differences in your nervous system regulation. So you might feel less anxious. You might have an easier time winding down for sleep. You might feel, better mood. And you just have a better ability to place your focus where you choose to place it, instead of maybe spinning out on, all your most embarrassing middle school memories in the middle of the night. Your brain can be like, okay, we're going to quiet down. It's not time for that. Thank you. So that's the lived experience of, after neurofeedback. But for a physical injury, it's just also going to help calm down your body somewhat and like can reduce some pain. It can help other things that might kind of seize up in the wake of a stressful event, like if your digestion gets blocked up because it's like, oh, we're not feeling safe. We've had an injury. So it can just kind of relax you and help your brain and body just kind of go with the flow more and respond appropriately to your stimuli.
Is this like, I remember when I was researching, and I did a little bit of this experimentation on myself, which was tapping or emotional freedom technique. And the whole point there was to try to retrain basically the amygdala or the fight or flight portions of the brain so that in a moment of stress or anxiety, you give it a different signal. And so it seems like, is that what you're sort of doing in a different way here? Is that on the same vein, or is that something
It's
totally?
related, yeah. I mean, the emotional freedom technique is about tapping acupressure points in a certain pattern to kind of, almost like, the jukebox is stuck. You give it a whack on the side and it like, oh yeah, that's what we're doing. Thank you.
I love that. That's a great analogy. That's a good one.
But but it's so that can help you like right away in the moment kind of come back to present and reframe, be more positive. And the neurofeedback can be like that. It can also be a more subtle effect. Like you might do a neurofeedback session and not really feel particularly different afterwards. It takes a little while to build because it's sort of like strengthening a muscle or learning a new skill, like playing piano. There has to be some repetition for your brain to really make it its own new pattern.
So what I know is biofeedback, and you're doing neurofeedback. Is that the same thing?
So biofeedback is the big umbrella term of any kind of tool that we use to give us information about our bodies. So a thermometer is a biofeedback device. Um, Neurofeedback is just within that and specific to the brain. And so there are types of biofeedback where you can do like, test with your breathing and with your, sweat response on your palms and things like that. So yeah, there are a whole lot of different ways to go about it. And but basically what it's all doing is trying to teach your body how to better handle stress from inside, outside, um, to more appropriately respond to all of that instead of being reactive or being stuck in one pattern, like having your foot stuck on the gas pedal or your foot stuck on the brake in a car. So we want to be able to smoothly shift and accelerate when we need to and put on the brake gently when we need to. And like it's all gotta be working smoothly. And so the neurofeedback and other types of biofeedback all are going for that end goal of smoother operation of of our
Mhm.
brains and bodies.
And do you see the downstream consequences of that? Sometimes, do you ever have clients that report back and say, since I've been working on my stress, I had also now I'm actually my digestion's better.
Yes, definitely, absolutely. And I'm not, in my office able to do any lab testing, but so when they be working with their own doctors on those kind of quantifying changes. But for sure, I've had people, for example, come in with their primary goal as being improving sleep. maybe with neurofeedback. And then they say, hey, guess what? My PMS symptoms are way better. Oh,
Right.
that's
Right.
awesome. I wasn't planned, but that's
Right.
calming down. Or, right, skin issues. Um, Definitely digestion is a early thing to notice that can work better if you're more regulated.
Hmm. So I'm kind of a biohacker, and I guess if you want to use that word, and that I really love experimenting on how things make me feel, and then I also do a number of tests to kind of, like you said, quantify, um, a practice or a lifestyle. One of the things that is available now is heart rate variability. But with what you do, I know heart rate variability is impacted and you address that. Can you tell people
Yeah.
what that is even, and then
Yeah.
how what you do impacts it?
Yeah, sure. So, heart rate variability is, I call that a biofeedback technique. And there are different gadgets that you can use to pick up your heart rate that are more or less, accurate. The one I use is from the company called HeartMath. And so you can either use it with an ear clip or a finger sensor. And it's basically just picking up your heart rate. And then the software reflects back to you how well you're in coherence, meaning how well are your breath cycles linked up with your heart rate patterns. And the goal with heart rate variability training is to have your heart rate increase a bit when you inhale and decrease a bit when you exhale. So every breath cycle, you have this variability. And you don't want just a static heart rate. Then that's bad. So, and the higher your variability, so for example, if you have 20 beats per minute variation within a breath cycle, so it's 20 beats faster on the inhale for that brief time, and then it slows down by 20 beats per minute on the exhale. That is a good indicator of your long-term health and longevity, and it's going to help you, again, place your attention where you want to place it and respond appropriately to your environment because you're in that state of coherence. Your parasympathetic nervous system is going to be activated. You're going to be more likely to just be able to stay calm, keep your, um, and just think clearly. And so, one thing that I do with clients is we do a little experiment with it because you can watch the screen in real time, like how is your breathing linked up? And um, and I'll just take a little side note here and say there are lots of great breathing techniques out there for different goals. And with heart rate variability, we just use equal inhales and exhales with no pauses at the top or the bottom. So it's just, maybe breathe in for 5 or 6 counts and exhale the same amount. At the same time, you kind of keep a heart focus. Like imagine that you're breathing through your heart. And the third piece is just to think about positive thoughts, especially pro-social thoughts. So not imagining you're on your favorite desert island totally without irritating people, but like you're with, someone you love who loves you. Could be your dog, could be, a family member, could be an imaginary person, but just like having that feeling that you're cultivating as you are breathing in this particular way is how you get into that heart rate variability optimization. And so when we are using the tool with the software, we can play with it and say, okay, if I'm a client, for example, I'm thinking these positive pro-social thoughts, breathing correctly. I can see, okay, my graph is beautiful and consistent, and I've got 20 beats per minute, variation. And then I go into the experiment of dropping my focus on the breath, drop my focus on the heart, and imagine a memory that is really stressful or scary. And then you can watch the graph just immediately get really jagged looking, and the very heart rate variability drops to very minimal. And so the practice then becomes, can you intentionally pull yourself in and out of that and get more comfortable with recognizing when you are in coherence and learn how to bring yourself back to it? So it's just with a little more clear feedback instead of if you're like trying to meditate, for example, but you don't have any mirror back to see, are you doing this right? Is it working? you know, um, this is a way to have it mirrored back. Like, how well are you linking up your breathing and your heart rate? And can you have some agency over it? And I think that's one of the nice things that I work with clients on recognizing is that you're not powerless. If you are in this state of dysregulation and your graph is all jagged and you don't have consistent heart rate variability at all, that's you're not stuck with that. You can choose to slow down your breath, put your focus on your heart, call to mind a positive memory, and bring yourself out of it. Like you have that power. And so that's a really cool thing. And another thing I'll mention is that how that dovetails with neurofeedback. Sometimes with clients, we'll do a little practice with the heart rate variability at the beginning of a session, and they'll just be struggling. And then we'll do neurofeedback for half an hour, and they'll feel a lot better. And it's all subconscious learning, no effort needed. Then we go back and check in again with the heart rate variability tool, and it's so much better. And so it's like, oh, look, we can see it's proof.
Yeah. 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 I always, heart rate variability, it's such a, like when I first was learning about, I'm like, how does this make sense that, or with coherence is that, okay, the more coherent I am, the more variability there is. It's like, I always thought coherence was like, okay, I'm going for a straight line. It's like, no, we actually want this jaggedness to be able to indicate responsiveness to stress and ability to handle things in life. So very, very interesting about that. So another question I have is around with this training that you do. When we think about wellness and the kind of like wellness things you can go and do. It might be a spa, it might be massage, it could be acupuncture. All these things are like services you can go off and go get. But what it feels like that what you're doing is you're actually empowering somebody to change outside of when they see you, to take a stressful situation. And now that they've learned how maybe to identify when those feelings are coming up, and now you've taught them to work with the breath in some way, that they're actually able to create wellness inside themselves in a moment, anywhere they are on earth.
Exactly. That's exactly it. I am not here to, have lifetime clients, like we're going for like the learning process, which is a very internalized, relatively permanent shift if you do enough of it, of the practice. And yeah, like the brain training is a little bit like yoga for, you don't have to be in a yoga class all day, every day for there to be benefits in the rest of your life with your strength and flexibility and relaxation. So it's an important, yeah, this like levels up everything else. And I think that a benefit of neurofeedback that I've felt, and certainly when my clients tell me about, is that it just helps get out of our own way when we're not stuck in high anxiety or we're not stuck in a chronic lack of sleep. Our mood is a little better. We have a little more clear thinking, like all of that stuff that gets in our way and uses up our bandwidth. When that is quieter, then we can incorporate in other lifestyle changes that are beneficial, and it all just kind of lifts. And so you have a more holistic improvement.
I'd say it would be like an amplifier effect in some ways too, for all the other things that you're doing for self-care and being good to yourself. I was recently in a float tank over at Still Point Wellness and went over there, and you know, the faster I could have dropped into a quiet state, the more I would get out of that session. Or if I had maybe some feeling of, because you're in a dark tank, and there's some things that can come up, claustrophobia, those kinds of feelings. Um, and the more I could regulate myself internally to handle those, I actually can get more benefit from the other services. So it feels very complementary, I guess, to everything else that you're doing for self-care.
Yes, yes, and I'll add to that too, that even that's a great example because it's so acute. You're just right there with yourself and there's nothing else happening. You you have to really dial in. But also that skill with self-regulation benefits everyone around you. I'm sure you've noticed, when you have a conversation or you're in a room with somebody who's really like calm and grounded and you just get a feel that like, you're a little safer and you feel a little more relaxed and you just feel a little more at ease. And that co-regulation is so important for our ability to grow and learn and just be in a healed state. And so the more we can each improve our own self-regulation, that has this um, outward expansion of benefit to everyone that we interact with. Our the people we live with at home, our kids, people at work, even people at the grocery store checkout. Like there is a feeling of interaction with somebody that uh, is very powerful. And you also on the flip side, if you're talking to somebody who's really stressed, super anxious, can't really focus on the thread of the conversation because they've got a million things going on in their head, you feel that, right? And it's like kind of makes you feel a little more anxious too if you don't have your shields up pretty strongly, so we influence each other and you can't make anybody else be different, but you have agency over yourself. And so I think that's something that I really value in the line of work that I'm doing now is that I can help people be their own best selves, which helps others.
I love that. That's really that's really important, because I think all of us want to be better human beings. We all want to be better mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, friends, whatever label you have. It's like we all are trying to be better of those. I think this makes you a better human being. Sleep is something I think it's very tied to stress. So we've talked about stress. I love and I love the immediate nature of like when you're doing the work that you do, their clients are getting immediate feedback and they're seeing in real time how their breath and other environmental factors and their thoughts are affecting them in different ways. I love that. But what they can't necessarily know in real time is how they're going to sleep that night. But we know that sleep is very tied to stress. How would you say what you do helps with sleep? Because it's a huge thing, sleep problems, right?
Yeah, it's huge. And some of the protocols that I use for neurofeedback are more geared towards supporting sleep than others, but pretty much all of them do help sleep because, yeah, it's so interrelated with uh, how we're feeling in in all ways. So, but yeah, it is there's sort of a counterintuitive piece with the sleep support with neurofeedback. It's like there's this particular activating system in your brain that is kind of like the night watchman. And so if that has enough energy from enough of the right frequencies of electricity, it can do its job and let you stay asleep and not get you all spun out on anxious thoughts in the middle of the night because like, no, I got this. You can stay asleep. I have enough energy. I'm going to assess your safety while you're asleep. We're good. But if that system is underpowered, then it's going to be like, I'm not sure. Maybe you should wake up. Okay, come on, wake up, wake up. So there's some aspect of the neurofeedback that's actually like activating your brain a little bit more to help you sleep better, which is counterintuitive. And it certainly I have quite a few clients who, after the first few neurofeedback sessions, report that they can really tell an improvement in sleep, and that has this trickle down effect of better focus and less anxiety.
Right.
You just, have a lot of benefits.
I know you've got a new space at Heartwood Collective. I haven't been over there. What kind of environment are you creating over there?
Yeah, it's an awesome old old architecture building right downtown, um, on Wall Street, close to the Flatiron sculpture, if you know where that is. And I'm sharing the office with Jared Hinton, who's a psychotherapist. So I also highly recommend him. So we have um, a cozy but also spacious office there and big windows. And it just, so I meet with clients there and also have a home office, but I'm focusing on the space at Heartwood Collect.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'll make sure to put that in the show notes. And what was the psychotherapist name again? Dr.
Jared
Hinton?
Hinton.
Jared Hinton. Okay. Yeah, we'll put him in there as well. So if anybody's looking for that kind of service, always looking for good folks. So yeah. So then you've got I think we're kind of talking about special deal or special offer for listeners. What do we got cooking for them?
Yeah, if you sign up, want to try out some neurofeedback or some integrative nutrition health coaching, you get $100 off your first session if you mention this podcast. So I'll be thrilled
Nice.
to welcome new clients, and that's a pretty big savings for your first session. So I hope you
That's
give me a call.
huge. That's huge. Like, who would not take that up? I might be calling you.
Please do.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time. I think that what you're doing can be a game changer for a lot of people. I also think this idea of empowering somebody and having sovereignty over their own being is so important. And we can do lots of things outside of ourselves, but until we sort of correct that internal mechanism and find and kind of get our compass working, really, this is kind of what I feel like you're doing is you're fixing the internal compass that can sometimes be off. And I guess appreciate your work. And I really encourage you to keep going. But I have a last question for you here. What's one thing you wish more people understood about a brain's ability to heal or adapt?
Well, yeah, our brains are totally amazingly plastic our whole lives. So, and I think I think a take home message is that beyond that, our brains learn through what they're exposed to, right? So we're giving feedback for electrical frequencies is one way to do it, but also our thoughts and our focus are so important because our brains believe what we tell them.
Hmm. We kind of are that thing, aren't we, in some ways?
Yeah. We are that thing, but it's like if you kind of try to separate it a little to kind of think about the concept, it's so important what we choose to focus on because our brains believe it and will learn from it. And so the more if you repeat negative stuff or focus on your challenges, your brain is going to kind of go that direction. If you focus on growth and learning, positivity, brain's going to go that direction. So we do have so much agency over that, even though we can't control a lot about our environments, we have some control over it.
Thank you so much for your time today, Megan.
Yeah, thank you. It's been wonderful to talk with you.
Yeah, take care.
You've been listening to the Wellness in Asheville podcast. To learn more about Megan Hearne and her neurofeedback and coaching practice, visit vitalityneuro.com. Mention this podcast episode to receive $100 off your first session at her beautiful new space in downtown Asheville. Thank you for listening. To learn more about Be Well Asheville, visit bewellavl.com. And don't forget to follow this podcast. You can catch the next episode and bring us along while you're taking a riverside stroll along the French Broad Greenway, browsing stalls at the Asheville City Market, or heading downtown for a show with the Orange Peel.
If you loved what you heard, please rate and review this show. Your review helps others discover and grow our wellness community. You can check out Asheville Wellness news, events, and our newsletter at bewellabl.com. Thank you for being the best part of our wellness community, and until next time, be well.